it any other way. I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when
Hey everybody, my name is Donna Feazell and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. You can also find us on Abundant TV, which is worldwide, and that's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you so much for watching. You can hear something boiling right here in the background. I'm making some peach preserves. No, I'm sorry, pear preserves. We made the peach on another show, but Phil had put together, you remember this, Phil had planted some trees, fruit trees a few years ago, and he calls those his trees. So what I've done, and make sure you go by the directions, okay, on this. This is really important. I've tried to alter the directions using Sure Gel, and I've tried to use less sugar. Does not turn out good at all. So you need to put the exact amount of sugar, again, by using Sure Gel. So I've already got most of the process done. It takes a while to go ahead and get everything boiling, because when you're boiling this, first of all, you don't want it to stick. You don't want it to scorch, so you've got to be with it on and on and on. So I am. Now I'm going to show you a magical way to get rid of, see this foam that's in here, and it's stuck on this right here. Yeah, on the wooden spoon. I'm going to show you how to get rid of the foam. All it's going to take is a couple of teaspoons of butter. Now, make my own butter, okay? I don't know. We think this is the best butter in the world. But anyway, so there's a couple of teaspoons of butter. Now, this is after it has boiled. First thing you want to do, and let's go per the directions, okay? Exactly. Do not alter this at all. So this is making pear jam. Okay, what you'll need is 4 cups of finely chopped peaches. You need to do that. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice and 5½ cups of sugar. Now, I doubled the recipe on this, okay? And so this is what we're going to do. I've been boiling the lids. I'll put this over here to the side. And I'll go on ahead and change the stove. I've got my little portable stove going right here. And let's go on ahead, and I'm going to stir this. We're going to get it up to a rolling boil again. Now, I brought my masher, because what I want to do, it's not really, the pears are not really fine enough. So I'm going to get the potato masher, and I'm going to go in here, and while it's kind of getting back up to a boil again, I boil this with the sugar and the lemon juice exactly. I boiled it for exactly 1 minute. Now I'm going to get this up to a rolling boil again. Okay, let's go ahead and put this potato masher right here. And by the way, you want to stick that potato masher in water, because it will seem like it takes absolute forever to get that thing clean. So I've got it sitting in water right now. I've boiled my lids. You know, we've talked about doing that before. This is a must. Okay, because what happens is, let's go ahead and do a little fork or a spoon or something. There's a little rubber gasket on here. I guess my hands, I've had in so much boiling water that I don't even feel the heat anymore. But you'll see that little gasket, the little rubber gasket. Okay, you want that to be hot, and you want that in boiling water at least a minute or so. And what's going to happen is the little rubber around that lid is going to be a lot softer, and it's going to adhere to the jar a whole lot better. Now let me do one other thing. I'm going to reach right back here. I should have been more organized for you. I'm going to carry this cup. I love this thing right here. Got to have my measuring cup out. Again, I'm waiting on the pears to boil, and they're just about to start doing that. And then when that happens, we're going to put 2 packages, because I doubled the recipe for this pear jam. So I've doubled it. Now you can double it, you cannot triple it. It just, for some reason, doesn't work out to triple it. You gotta make sure you got you a good pan, and I love this pan right here. This thing it's made a lot of cheese, it's made a lot of jams, and a lot of jellies. This thing's just been awesome. Okay, got my lids, they're hot. Got this about to go on. I've added the butter, so let's go ahead and get the butter out of the way. Right there, I'm going to leave my drying cloth right here, and I'm going to step right over here to the cabinet and get one other thing. this right here can save you a lot of time right here, and it's not going to be, now the jars are warm, that's another thing, okay? So what I found is it's like a roasting pan that you'd roast maybe a turkey or maybe a hen or something like that in. Okay, it's going to a boil right here. Let's go ahead and do this, then I'll explain the jars in just a second. Okay, I'm adding 2 packets of Sure Gel. Okay, so there's one, and I'm going ahead and stir it in, and let's add the other one. And we want this to go to a rolling boil. It's really important that it goes to a rolling boil. Okay, not just boil, but a rolling. That means it's steady boiling. Okay, and it's almost to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 packages of Sure Gel in while we're doing that. Okay, oh, this is going to be so good. You're going to like that. You're going to have to come over and we'll have some biscuits and eat us some. Got some blackberry jam. We got some of that going on. We've got, okay, let's go ahead and set the timer because it says it must be exactly. So there we go. There's 1 minute going. Okay. And I'm going to let it set just for a second. Okay, after it starts boiling. Yep, it's doing its rolling boil. I like that. Now the pears we have, they're the Alberta pears. And they're kind of soft. And you can also make pear butter, with the peels, and we'll do that on another show. But this does need to boil for exactly a minute. There we go. And it's just about to do that. Now, I told you about the roasting pan while this is doing this little boiling thing. The roasting pan, I put water in the bottom of it. Now, these jars have already been sterilized. Make sure you sterilize your jars. That's a must. You've got to do that. I usually get mine, I wash them, and then I'm also going ahead and put those things in my, Phil calls it a really expensive dryer pan, and I put them in my dishwasher, and I put it on hot, scalding hot water. In other words, it's the kind of water, let's go ahead and get that out of the way. There we go. Okay, Phil, you want to pick up your phone? We had to go with 2 of them. But there, thank you. Okay, I'm done with it, so you can take it over there if you don't mind. Husbands sometimes argue about nothing. So anyway, it's gone to a rolling boil, and that's what we wanted it to do. And it looks as if it's not going to thicken, but it will because I'm using the 2 packs. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and put this up just for a second. And again, this is the Sure Gel. Make sure you do go exactly by what the directions say to do, or it's not going to turn out right. Okay, I'm going to go over, is this in trash? So I'm going to go over the recipe with you again. Now, this is exactly what it tells you to do. So the very first thing I did is, I'm going to switch pots. Put this on this eye, and we want to keep these lids hot, okay? Okay, so here's the first thing you do. You want to get the pears, and you want them cut up in little bits and little pieces. Now you can use one of those emulsion things. You can use that if you wanted to. It's going to create a kind of a foam, but then when you boil this, after you get through boiling, put a couple tablespoons or teaspoons of butter in it, and it takes that foam away magically. It just does that. Okay, so what we did is I used 8 cups, okay, of the fruit and put that in. And you can use any fruit with the same recipe. I mean, I've done peaches with the same, some really good peach jam came out of this recipe. Super. Okay, so I put the 8 cups of sugar in here. That's a lot of sugar. And like I told you before, you've got to be exact on this, because if you don't do it exactly like the recipe says, it won't gel. It just will not do right. You're going to eat a little bit of that jam anyway, right? Okay, so I got that together. I stayed over the stove, and I'm stirring it because it's really thick. Oh, and I did add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice in there as well. That just kind of helps with the pectin, it helps it to do its thing. Look at that. Don't you like that? It's going to be some good jam with some biscuits. So I went on ahead and got this into a rolling boil, and I boiled it for 1 minute. Then I took it off the stove. Then what I did is I went on ahead and got 2 packages of Sure Gel, and I put that in here, and I boiled it again exactly 1 minute. Make sure you do that. Okay. Now we're going to be ready now to go ahead and can this. Okay. Again, exact. You can double the recipe, but you cannot triple it. Okay, that's another important thing. Okay, I always mess up a lot of towels when I'm cooking. It's my thing. I guess I just mess up a bunch of stuff. So let me go ahead and grab a bowl right here. Okay, I'm going to put this wooden spoon in there. I love my wooden spoons. They are the thing. Okay, now, the reason that we want these jars nice and warm is so they won't burst when you're putting the jam in there, because that can happen. If that happens, you got yourself a mess. We're going to grab another bowl, because what we're going to do is one jar at a time. I don't know how many pints this is going to make, because I've never done this particular recipe before, but I do know the peaches turned out great. Okay, so I've got a little saucer right here, and I'm having to do it this way. Normally, I don't. I've got to show you how I'm doing this. Okay, so I've got a bowl right here. I've got the jar here. It's still warm. It's still hot, but I want this just in case. This is just safety precaution, just in case it were to burst. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is dip down into the bowl, and let's go ahead and add. We want to go right up to the rim. Can you see what I'm doing? Make sure you go right up to the rim. Okay, I need to put just a little bit more in there now. You got to fill her up. This is going to be such good jam. Okay, we'll leave that right there. Let's go ahead and put this back down here. And I've got one jar done. Okay, and it won't take you this long when you're doing this at home, okay? Because I'm stopping and I'm talking and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And so let's go ahead and put this in there. Here's another jar. Now, I usually do about 3 jars at a time, because I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started to seal. Okay. I'm going ahead and put this down. I got to taste some of it. I just got to. Oh, it's good. That is so good, if I must say so myself. Okay, let's get another jar ready. Now, normally what I would use is maybe a pie tin. I would get about 3 jars at a time, but it's going to take up too much of the camera space if I do that. But this is just as good as any. And what you're doing also, you're trying to keep splatter from happening. And just in case, I've got one jar that just wants to do it on its own, and it wants to burst. Well, then it's all going to burst inside this little thing right here, okay? Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning. Make sure you've got a good clean cloth, and make sure it's damp, not just soaking wet, but damp. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, you can see me right around that rim. I don't want anything on it. Okay, so I'm going to make sure there's no sugar, because this turns into kind of like a syrup. So I don't want any of that syrup on here, because it could hamper it from actually sealing. Alrighty, let's go ahead and grab a lid. I'm going to use my spoon. If you weren't here, I'd just be grabbing it out of there. Somebody's going to tattle on me if I don't do it the right way. All right, so let's go ahead and put the lid right there on this one. And let's go ahead and clean this. Put my cell phone up here. I don't need to boil it, do I? Okay, here we go. I'm going to clean this lid off. Okay, it fell on the shelf, so we're okay. I'll clean that one. I'm going to grab another lid and put it on top. Now, you need to be really precise about this as well. And you see me also with my cloth, I'm also cleaning the water off, the water residue off of this part right here, off of that rubber part. I'm putting that down right there. And again, now I'm grabbing my jars out of this water bath, and I put all these jars inside my oven. Okay, now turn the oven on 350 degrees. I put the jars inside this pan, and I'll show you real quick. This is the roasting pan I was telling you about. So I put the jars in there, and I went on ahead and put about a quarter teaspoon or a quarter cup of water in there, just enough just to kind of get it the jars wet down on the bottom. And it also serves as another function. First of all, those jars are just not going to break because as soon as I put these jars in the oven, I turn the oven off. Another real important point. So let me go ahead and grab another lid, and we're going to put that on top. Now, when you are canning, extremely important, okay, is that you tighten the jars. Now, don't tighten them so tight. My grandmother used to tighten them so tight you couldn't even open the jar. But you still need to put this on tight. Okay. Okay, so there's one right there. It's ready. So there you go. There's some awesome jam. And that's pear jam. And we're going to see how many pints this. I would put jams up, jellies up, and especially when Brad, before he got married and started going to college and everything. And I would do I did these little tiny jars. That doesn't work in this family. You got to use at least a pint. Otherwise, you're washing jars and you're using more lids than you need to. Okay, and here we are. There's another one. So far we've got 3 of them. Let's go ahead and fill some more out. Let's see what we turned into here. Still a lot of it in there. It's going to be really good. Just think about this. There's a little effort to it. There's a little work you got to do, but just think about it. This winter, when it's super cold outside and you would just love to have something that reminds you of summertime, this will remind you of summertime. Okay, there's another one. Let's go ahead and get this one ready. Okay. There we go. And look at those bits and pieces of pear. It's going to be so good with a hot biscuit. Do you use a lot of butter on your biscuit? I don't use a whole lot of butter on mine. And Phil likes it to where the biscuit just kind of squishes and oozes out butter. I don't like mine that way. I want some on it, but I don't want it like oozing out like that. Okay, I'm going to put this one right here to the side as well. I like to do it in 3s. Okay, because that way I'm working on getting these things sealed as soon as possible. Because what's going to happen if you don't do it that way, if you just went on ahead and just started just all the jars all at the same time, what's going to happen is you're going to have some of them that may not seal. But now, if that would happen, a water bath's going to help do it too. Okay. Luscious stuff right here. Okay, now let's go ahead and wipe it off again. I'm going to dip down into that water. And I'm going to clean this off. Okay, and I've used the hot water to do that. Now what I'm doing, in case you can't see me, I'll go ahead and put this up here for you to see. So what I was doing is make sure I've got all the sugar syrup and everything off of the top of that jar. Again, it's just not going to seal correctly. And you could open up a jar and it could have some mold on it or something. And we don't want that to happen. I don't want you to be sick. And that could happen. All right, there's one. Let's go ahead and wipe this one off. And we'll put another one. And again, right there. Okay, and let's go ahead and get another one cleaned off. I'm getting some more water. And we're just making sure that there's no sugar syrup on there. Okay. And again, wipe the excess water off because that could also prevent proper sealing. And we can't have that happen. All right, let's go ahead and put this lid on. Pretty tight. That's what you want it to be. Now you're going to have some of this sugar syrup that's probably going to get on the sides of your jar. Make sure you clean that off as well. I mean, it won't cause you to get sick or anything. It just looks better. You know what I mean? It just looks better. Okay. Let's go ahead and tighten that one. Got that rocking and rolling right there too. All right. Now, how much more have we got? I think I probably got enough to do at least another part of one, almost two, which I think Phil's going to find that's good news, because what that's going to mean is I'm not going to have one of them sealed. It's going to be going in the refrigerator for his breakfast in the morning. I think he's going to like that. I asked him one time, I said, did you marry me because I'm a cook? It took him a while to answer that. Here we go. Just love to cook. You know, I always loved science in school. Cooking is science. I mean, that's what it is. It's science. Okay, looks like he's going to wind up with some. So he's already got some of the peach jam in the refrigerator, but I think he's going to want some of this pear. He's going to want to try that out. Okay. I'm going to put that one right here because I'm going to need that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and wipe this off. So what I've wound up with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and probably about a half pints. You want to keep it in the fridge. Keep it in the refrigerator after you've opened it. That's really important to do as well. Not so bad in the wintertime, you know, when the humidity is not acting up like it does in the summertime right here in the south. But here we go. And let's go ahead and tighten it right here. So what I'm going to wind up doing with these right here, they're going to be in a water bath. And I'm going to put the water on the stove. I've got a plate that I'm going to put down at the bottom of my big pot like this. And then I'll put all the jars down in here. And then I'm going to boil it on the stove. It's got to be a rapid boil. You can turn it down some, but it's going to be a rapid boil. And we're going to boil it for just about 30 minutes. Okay. Let's go ahead and get a few jars and stuff out of the way. It's like when we rob the bees from honey. You can't help it. You got to lick your fingers. All that goodness going in there. All right, so this is the last one. And this is not going to be quite a full jar. Okay, so we're just going to move some of this stuff here out of the way as well. Right there. And let's just see what happens. How far can we fill this thing up? See, it's already getting thick. See, you notice that now when it's dripping, drip, 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 and as it's getting a little bit on the warmer or cooling off, getting on the cooler, see, look at that. It's turning into like a syrup. Now this is good on pancakes and waffles too. It's super good. Okay, now this could be a nightmare to clean, so I will be putting it in some water. I promise you that. Put this right here. Okay, now I'll put this up here so you can see it a little bit better. And so what we've wound up with, I may just fix some pancakes in the morning. I think that'd turn out really good. And then you can use this setting, put as much of the pear stuff in here. So, and see, now look at it. See, it's turning into a syrup. I don't know if you can see that, but as it's coming out, see how it's getting just a little thicker each time. That's a lot of goody stuff in there. Don't you think? Don't you think I need to get something? Let's go ahead and get this big spoon. Because there's all kinds of juicy goodness in there. Oh, and another thing I've used this for, I'm telling you what, pork chops. When you're making some pork chops, if you want to put them in a crock pot, or you want to put them in an oven, you know, whatever you want to do, this pear is really, really good if you want to put it in there with your pork chops. It's super delicious. Look at that. See how thick it's getting? Imagine that on your biscuit, on your hot biscuit. I think I'm going to make one of them buttered biscuits in the morning. Okay, so here we go. So we almost wound up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost wound up with 8 pints. Not too shabby, is it? And again, I'm still going to go ahead and clean it. Now, I have some lids that are not sealing lids because, I mean, you got to watch your budget these days. You know, the price of gas going up and all that stuff happening. And so I just have some regular lids I would use on that. I'm not going to seal it because I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. And Mr. Phil's going to get him some of this on his biscuit. He's going to like that, I think. Got a little bit on my cell phone. Need to clean that off. Oh, and by the way, I like a good screen on my cell phone, and that is going to prevent scratches. It also prevents this. This is a good screen. And by the way, I drop my phone continuously. I don't know how many cell phones I've had in a lifetime. It's unreal. But this screen is really, really good. I like it. I found it at the $5 store. It was on quarter day. And so I can cook. I can use it for my timer. See, I'm using it for the timer right now. I've got 3 minutes and 48 seconds left in the show. And so I use this daily when I'm on the show, just because I've got to count it down. Phil's got to have it right, put the commercials in and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, you can use alcohol, like just plain old rubbing alcohol. Now, don't douse it on your cell phone, but get a paper towel or a nice cloth, a clean cloth. And so you want to put some on the cloth. Don't put it on your cell phone. And it'll get rid of all those little, I see I've got makeup and everything is on it, you know, like I'm doing this all the time. So I get stuff, it just, you know, it gets dirty. It's just a cell phone. It's probably one of the dirtiest things that you handle. People didn't think about that with COVID, did they? No one thought about it. That could have been a carrier as well for that. So anyway, let's go ahead and read the recipe again for you guys. Super easy to do. You saw the biggest thing, what took the longest, was actually you need to peel them. And I've got my favorite knife I like to use. And this is my favorite paring knife. And I've had this for a really long time. I like it because it's slanted right here. And I've not found it. If y'all know of it, if you see another one, let me know. Send me a text and let me know because I'll buy it. 256-659-4319. This is my favorite. Another thing I like about it is it's serrated right here. But it's not super sharp. See, I was able to put my finger on it without cutting my finger. So this is how I peeled all of the pears, the peaches, and everything I had. Well, no, I didn't do that with the peaches. The peaches, I told you about that. You can do them like a tomato. You get some water boiling. Now make sure you've got some ice water. You've got a bowl and you've got some ice in that bowl. And make sure you've got that ready, okay? Because you're going to put the peaches or your tomatoes. And by the way, my favorite tomatoes are these right here. They're the yellows. These are so juicy and so meaty. And I actually got the plant last year. And I got it, I think it was at Lowe's. So what I did is I saved some seeds from last year's, and this is where they came from. So I bought a plant one time for $4. And look, I've just got years of tomato sandwiches, all from seeds. Do that. Save your seeds. Do that. Okay, folks, thank you again so much for watching. But let me go on if I've got enough time, I'll go ahead and share this recipe with you again. Okay, so this is my cooked jam. Now, they've got a little leaflet inside the sugar gel. And again, go exactly like the recipe says, okay? So you've got one part is for jam, another part is for jelly. And, you know, I made some blackberry jelly the other day. So what this calls for, and look, it's got different fruits and stuff, and you know, different fruits have different water amounts in them. So this one is for the pear, and 4 cups of finely chopped pears. Then you want 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice and 5 cups of sugar. Okay, it makes about 6 cups. Now, you know, remember the foam that came in? Remember it was foamy at the very top? And nobody likes foam, and I don't like having to fish the foam out of the top of the pan either. But take a look, no foam. And all of that was just by adding 2 tablespoons of butter. Thank you so much for watching. You're super awesome. Thank you again so much. And I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Let me know because it's on Facebook Live, and you also find us on television 2 different places. But again, thank you so much for being part of my life.